Thank you so much for coming back. My name is Jen Potter, and I am the host of Networking Now. And I am joined today with Heather Estramera, who is a real estate attorney. So thank you again for being here. And so before the break, we talked about a whole bunch of different things, how we met, what type of things that she does with networking. And prior to the break, we talked about something that kind of sparked my interest a little bit. She just briefly mentioned about, title companies and, when doing like real estate transactions. And then I had like this question when it came to her business. As a real estate attorney, you do have to deal with a lot of different people. And I know someone such as myself who has, bought several houses. I still don't know the full answer to this question. So I'm going to be that person. I'm going to tell you, you don't know what you don't know. That's one of my favorite things to say because if I don't know, I want to learn a little bit more about it. And so you mentioned a title company. And when I bought my house, I don't remember working directly with a title company. I remember working with a mortgage company. Is that like the same thing? Do they like what does their role play? How do you play in delegating the different roles with that? I'm curious if you happen to have an answer, and if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But I just want to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, I definitely have an answer. So the title company or the real estate attorney is the person that's usually in charge of making sure that the title is good for the property so that it can be insured by title insurance. So it's they work in conjunction with the lender because most lenders won't provide a loan unless the property is insurable, right? So
Hmm.
um, they work in conjunction with the lender. So now the difference between a title company and a real estate attorney is a title company is just really providing a service to make sure that the property can receive title insurance, and they're not offering any legal advice. So they wouldn't be negotiating your purchase and sale contract. They're not going to be drafting your deed or any associated other legal documents that you would need for your transaction. They're just going to be getting a title exam, making sure that they can get title insurance for the property. Whereas a real estate attorney will be able to negotiate that purchase and sale contract, review title, do any curative work. So if there's anything on the title that needs to be fixed, the real estate attorney can do that. And then also we can draft your deed, any powers of attorney or trustee certificates if your home's held in trust. So that's the major difference between the title company and a real estate attorney.
That was really good. I don't think I would have ever known that. And, and I think what sparked that interest was when you were saying the difference between like Massachusetts and other local states that are near us. When you said you could act as, I think you said as like a title company, right? And so that was like really interesting to me because I'm like, I don't know what the difference is. But I guess it makes perfect sense when you say they can't give any legal advice. They can only do up to so much when they're doing it. So that's super interesting. So thank you. I feel again, second segment, feel a little bit smarter. So thank you for that. So what am I going to learn in the third segment? So, now that, we talked a little bit about that and completely sidetracked because I just needed to know, to bringing it back to networking. And we talked a little bit about the type of networking that we did, which was virtual. We talked about, how a few times a month you get in person and you do, you like to do different types of networking, which again I need to get more into because I think I'd probably have a better time doing that. But with that being said, when we're talking about networking, there are so many different types of networking groups, and there's so many different in person and so many different, online. What type of preferences do you have when it comes to networking? Like if you were to say this is what I like best, what do you like best when it comes to networking?
So I'd have to say that I kind of like the hybrid approach. I know that the networking group that me and you are in, Jen, I thought it was great because weekly we met virtually on Zoom, and that was great because it's hard to get in person weekly, especially when you're working and you have kids or a family or other responsibilities. So I really liked that, but our group met in person monthly, and that was really great, and I really liked that. So I think I like that mix. So I'd like kind of like a hybrid networking group is my preference.
See, I like that too, right? Because I feel like it allows you to do the in person, it allows you to be online, and for us, and I'm sure it's similar for you, right? Because as a real estate attorney, I'm sure you have to be super flexible with your time, and so when you have time to yourself, the time is like shortened. And for me personally, networking online is always the best because my schedule is just so busy. But I do so much all of the time that being in person is the only way for people to understand all of the things that I do. And, when it comes to being a real estate attorney, I know you prefer the hybrid model, you prefer that, but what is when we're talking about networking and you're able to do that, what is the importance of networking to your business? Does it play a big portion in the amount of lead generations that you get, or is it a smaller part? Like, do you get more things just out of referrals? What does that look like, and what is the importance to that when it comes to being a real estate attorney?
So that's a really great question. So I personally believe networking is the most important marketing tool or business development tool, really, for a real estate attorney. That is networking is how I grew my business. I joined as many virtual networking groups when I first started out. I think I was going to like 3 or 4 a week. And those networking groups pretty much gave me all of my deals in the beginning when I started out. And then the relationships that I built in those networking groups have led to other relationships and other referrals. But it's really, I believe that it was really the foundation of building my business and my clients. So it is really that important.
See, I think the same thing. My opinion is completely biased when it comes to networking. I love it so much that I host a TV show about it. But, so how much it means to me. And so hearing that from other people, because that's kind of what I wrote as I was highlighting things, that networking is the most important piece of your business. And, it's for me when I think about networking and I think about, your reputation and I think about what it is that you do for networking, it's you're not just making a deal, you're creating a relationship. And, when you're buying a house, I personally know how important it is to have an established relationship with my real estate agent, right? And the real estate agent introduces you to the real estate attorney. And I've had a really awful experience with a really awful real estate attorney. And it's when you have someone that you don't feel comfortable with, you don't think is responsible, you're like, whoa, this person's supposed to be helping me buy a house. Like, this is a big investment. And so I didn't look at it, and I'll tell you my personal views on it. I didn't look at that as a bad thing on the real estate agent. I looked at it as, wow, I would never use this real estate attorney again. I actually called and said, can you suggest somebody else because I don't want to work with him? And she was fantastic. She got someone else. Thankfully, real estate agents, I'm sure, have plenty of other connections such as yourself, so they can call up a Heather and be like, hey, I have a client who I need you to work with specifically. And creating those relationships are so important, because I remember, like, I don't really remember many people that I interact with buying and selling other things, but when it came to my house, this person had to come and sit in my house. This person, came to me and went over these documents with me, and I remember how important it was when it played that role. So it's really nice when you have someone who really cares and really wants to be really embedded in it. And when you talked about networking, I totally went off on a tangent too, because it was like a trigger for me just then that I didn't remember for a while. But but I'm sure, right, everybody has that, because you not only just have like, oh, I had this awful experience with a real estate attorney. I'm sure you can turn around and probably say you have even more stories with awful experiences with clients, right? Not throwing anybody under the bus, but not everybody's a great client. I'm just saying, I know how that works. I tell everybody I'm not for everybody, but not everybody's for me. And, so I know how that works. But, when you talked about how this was the base and how strong it was, I think back to some networking business models. And this like kind of triggered something else in me too. Some business or networking groups have like this model where one person per industry, and I want to ask your opinion on that. You know, a lot of networking groups have one person per industry part of that group. I'm a big person of collaboration over competition. I struggle when people are like, well, there's already a real estate attorney in that group. Let me be very frank. Nobody is you. Nobody is me. And I think two people could be in the exact same business because one person might get referred based off of personality or reputation or, things like that. And I think, do you collaborate with other real estate attorneys that don't necessarily work for your company, and what does that look like? Because is it, I'm just curious about it.
So I wouldn't say that I've collaborated, but I'm not against it. But I do have some really good relationships with other real estate attorneys. And I would say that it's not as competitive. It's more of like mutual respect. And I totally agree with you what you're saying though about the collaboration, because I do think that, especially an attorney, it's it really does matter about personality in a match. And like, I'm not for everybody, and or some people, might think I'm great, but people might not like my style. So I'm very approachable. I'm very down to earth. I break things down so people can understand them. And but I mean, somebody might want somebody that's like a little more formal. Also my style, I'm not very like aggressive. I believe that you can get things accomplished through making good relationships and having good discussions. I always obviously try that way first. So yeah, I might not be for everybody, but for a lot of people I am. And I'm definitely open to like collaboration. I would be. And I would definitely serve in a networking group that had another attorney, because I feel like, yeah, if there's somebody else, somebody may prefer them, but somebody may prefer me. And that's okay. Because there's really enough business to go around.
I I agree, and it's so hard because there are so many people that are so cutthroat when it comes to that. And I find as networking is continuing to grow and expand, and it's playing such an imperative role in business growth, I think it's important that we recognize that collaboration is something that is so important. And I just try to emphasize it as much as I possibly can. And in so many different industries, it can be so catty, and, I think more people that are willing to say it's okay that if another person has the same thing, then we can start breaking down those barriers in order to get the networking groups to grow even bigger. Because I think that they would if there was more opportunity, right? And because we talked about something similar, there's a really amazing group that you want to be a part of, but the two local chapters already have, someone in your industry. Well,
Right.
how is that helping, right? Because then now you can't join that networking group, so now you're forced to go do something else. So I
Right.
I know it has its pros and cons, but that's just me, collaboration over competition, right? So, which I get so worked up about. I'm like, I can talk about this forever. But with that being said, we actually are going to cut to our next break. We talked about a lot of things. On the next break, we're going to talk about how we're going to be able to get a hold of you and all of those fun things and wrap it up. And I'm Jen with Networking Now, and we will be right back.